This video will present an overview of the new Dialog component in version 11. The Dialog component in version 11 has been completely rewritten and is a very powerful new tool for your applications. Essentially, a dialog is a form. So here, for example, is the dialog component over here, and when I render this in working preview, you can see there it looks like a data entry form. But unlike a grid, which is inherently bound to a table, a dialog component is not necessarily bound to anything. It's just a form for collecting variables, and then you can do whatever you want with the data in your XBasic event handler when the dialog gets submitted. So this is an example of a very simple dialog. Let's take a look at this dialog component over here, which you can see is more complex. It has many more fields, and when I go over to working preview, you can see it's a much richer form over here, and the dialog has a section here called a repeating section where you display master detail information. So this is again an example of a much more complex dialog, and typically when you would submit this dialog, you might want to basically add data to separate tables, the invoice header table and the invoice items table, and do it in a single transaction. So as I mentioned, the dialog component is not inherently bound to any particular table. So if I go back to the simple customer table over here, you can see that in the dialog builder there's a section here called events, and then there's server-side events, and it's here in the after dialog validate event, which is where you would put in your XBasic code that did something with the submitted variables, which typically would be saving the data to a table, but it could be anything that your application demands. So in other videos now we'll take a look at other aspects of the dialog component.